Good evening. Let's take a moment, concentrate, and think about those who are less fortunate and all the bad things that are going on in this world, and also all the good things. Let's just take a moment to contemplate. Thank you very much. We'll officially call this meeting to order. I welcome all of you. I see everyone in the room that's familiar with what's going on and the way we do things. In case you have forgotten, on the table on the back is paperwork, including the things that we're going to do tonight and how we're going to do it and information and so forth. So help yourself to the table. And let's stand and pledge allegiance to the flag, which is to my right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Number 4. Consideration of approving the agenda as presented. Is there a motion?
I move we accept the agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Mayor, we'll vote. I had one item I wanted to move till the January meeting, if we could.
No, this is just approving the last. We can,
No,
No,
this is
agenda
the
approval.
agenda, current agenda.
okay.
Okay,
Sorry.
sorry.
Well, that's-
I'll-
That's all right, we can still, I didn't hear him.
Okay, all right. I would like to move the agenda item number 15 to the January scheduled meeting. This is the town manager performance objectives. We've met with the town manager, and he is providing us his input, so I'd like to give him time to complete that, and so move that we move agenda item number 15 to January scheduled meeting, which is proposed for January 17th.
Any discussion on that?
Sounds good.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
In favor of the agenda, I didn't state that properly. All in favor of approving the agenda with the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no.
Thank you.
Number 5, possibility of approving the minutes from the November the 15th meeting. Is there a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
Have a motion, second discussion, hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no, it's unanimous. And now number 6, do we have any public comments?
No, sir.
None?
Nope, no comment.
All right. Number 7, audit report, Mr. Thompson.
You should have a copy of a presentation summary at your place. It should look like this. If you'd be kind enough to flip open to page 1. A couple items. The audit committee was kind enough to meet with me last week. We had, I thought, a very productive meeting. One of the things we discussed, obviously, the main thing you hire us to do is issue an opinion on the financial statements, are they materially accurate, et cetera. We did issue an unmodified report, which is a quote-unquote clean report. We discussed not only the, what we do testing-wise, but the financial status of the town, with upcoming projects, et cetera. I'll let Mr. Fletcher expound on anything the committee did, but, on page 1, you can see there were no significant audit findings. On page 2, had no difficulties encountered in performing the audit, no uncorrected misstatements, no disagreements with management. Management did provide us a representation letter. We're unaware that management consulted any outside auditors, et cetera, and again, no significant findings of any sort. On page 4, the purpose of this presentation is simply to pull out some of the key numbers inside the audit report, and then to try and put them in context is to show the previous 4 years' numbers out of those audit reports, so you can get a feel for trend information. And it's not a standalone number when you look at it in the audit report itself. You can see the fund balance in the general fund of $1,669,000. When you look back to 2012, $1,129,000. $1,996,608. And outside of a little dip in 2013, it's been steadily rising over that period of time. And we'll look at a chart in just a moment that reflects that. The unavailable fund balance at $608,000, restricted and assigned at $987,000. The total general fund expenditures at $2,523,000. The fund balance available as a percentage at 42.08, which is the highest of the 5 years presented. The unreserved and undesignated at $682,000. The unreserved and undesignated at $27.03, again, the highest of any year presented. And then the revenues over and under expenditures before transfers, the general fund at $48,000, the B part at negative $81,330, and the water sewer fund with a positive of $531. The next section you see there is the cash, accumulated depreciation water and sewer fund, the cash at $4.7 million, total fixed assets at $23,275 with accumulated depreciation at $5.9 million. The next section there has your cash and fund balance by fund. And you can see the general fund with $1,187,000 in cash, the B part with $5.7 million. The water sewer fund at $4,730,000, other governmentals of $1,364,000 for a total of $12,991,000. And then fund balances, we already talked about the general fund, the B part at $5,994,000, the water sewer fund at $19,729,000. And then you see your property tax rates, collection percentages, 98.64. And then without motor vehicles, 98.63. We talked about that at pretty much at length in the audit committee, and there's a comparison inside here in just a minute on the charts that you would think 98's pretty doggone high, but with statewide averages, it's right in line for the most part with statewide averages. And before it's over with, there's a page in the audit report in the back that shows you're only losing maybe $100 to $150 at the end of the 10-year statute actually getting written off. So before it's over, we're reflecting almost 100% of your taxes. You see the property valuation and your levy amount follows that, and then the total breakdown of your general fund revenues. And we'll look at a percentage of that, of what each one of these is of the total in just a moment as well as the general fund expenditures. Next, and then in the back, we'll look at what percentage each department is of the total expenditures. On page 5, you can see what I was talking about in blue, your total fund balance and reserve and designated fund balance in the bar chart on top. And as I mentioned earlier, you can see how the fund balance in the general fund is increasing. On the bottom, we talked about the group weighted average seems like an anomaly on the red line there. But again, your blue line, which represents the town, is the highest of any of the 5 years presented. On page 6.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
2016 reserved and designated fund balance, should we look at these as equal comparisons year to year? The reason I'm asking is it appears 2016, we were significantly less with reserved and designated fund balance. Just want to know how to understand that, since I'm not an accountant.
It really is, what you should be concerned in this particular one, even though we show it all as both reserve and total. The designated part of this, the majority of it is a due to, due from between funds. So the LGC asked the town to reduce the amount of due tos and due froms. And so as a result, that reduces the designated amount of the total fund balance.
Okay, so that's, the LGC is the primary difference between the previous years, or not?
LGC being the local government commission and state
Right.
treasurer's office. What really happened is if B part or the water sewer fund owed the general fund in a due to, due from, and they made payments back to that in the current year, the 15-16 year, then that would reduce that receivable, basically moving it to cash. It didn't change the total fund balance, but it changed the amount that was in that designated, because if it's in a due to or due from, that same amount has to be designated in your fund balance.
So that explains, I was a little surprised at the previous page, page 4, that the B-Part fund from year to year was less of more than $300,000. When that trend, you would think that would be the other direction.
Yes, sir, that's right. In essence, it's paying back the general fund some of the money that was due.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. So on page 6, you see the unreserved and undesignated fund balance as a percentage. And again, that's just what we're talking about right here, why that spiked up. And on the bottom, you see the the revenues over and expenses before transfers. With the D part, what we just talked about here, going on to, on the page 7, you see the total fixed assets, accumulated depreciation and cash, held pretty steady throughout the 5 years presented. On the bottom, you see in pie chart, the cash balances and fund balances with respective numbers by fund, underneath that, with total cash, $12,991,000, and total fund balance at $28,813,000. One of the things, we did have a long conversation, I'm sure the board has had long conversations, is how your project is gonna impact cash, the B part fund balance, the B part cash balance, as well as if it impacts any others. Dave and I had another quick conversation here. Fund balance wise, it shouldn't impact, or it will, obviously will impact both cash and your fund balance in the B part the most significantly. Again, accounting issues, technical issues, but the debt will come in as a revenue in the B part fund, so it will keep the B part from actually showing a negative fund balance. For instance, if you borrowed $12 million, it shows a revenue in the B part fund, you spend $15 million, show the expenditure, so your fund balance would dip that $3 million that you're actually coming out of fund balance in the B part fund. So if the B part fund, fund balance is $5,994,600, it would in essence drop to $3 as a result of the project. What we're debating on, and I haven't finished looking at it, is, again, technical issues that you probably don't care about, but the creditor has some issues with or concerns where they look at them. In the audit report itself, in exhibits 1 and 2, these fund balances in your governmental funds and B part and general fund are part of that, are transferred from traditional fund balance accounting to business type, like your water sewer type funds, if you will. And as a result, depending on whether or not you're able to capitalize that, it could have a negative impact on that that's much stronger. If you're able to capitalize it, complete it at over the 10 or 15 year period of time, similar to what the debt issuance is, then it'll just come down as your debt comes down. It shouldn't have a real significant impact, or about the same impact as your fund balance accounting does. I hope I explained that well.
When will we know about the capitalization? Year to
Hopefully I'll
year?
have you an answer either by tomorrow or right after Christmas. I think Nags Head and Bald Head Island have done some projects, and I just need to check, see how they're doing it, how the state treasurer's office is allowing it to be capitalized or not capitalized.
That's interesting. Capitalizing sand.
It's land.
It is land, you're right.
The real issue there from a practical standpoint is the debt service on it and the cash flow. Because whoever the creditors are and the analysis and interest rates, which obviously were very, very low, very positive, they're interested in the cash flow or the ability of the town to cash flow the debt service. That's, and in essence, that's all that really matters to them. On page 8, you can see the town's tax rates versus the statewide average. Obviously, the town looks very strong, or very positive there. On the bottom of that same page, you see the group weighted, or the statewide average versus the town's average on collection percentages. In the audit committee, we talked about, I do a lot of towns, counties, and I have a lot of towns, especially in the rural parts, that have nowhere near what statewide average is, so evidently they've got a lot somewhere that are jacking it up, because we do a county, I was saying shockingly, that has a 99.82% collection rate, a county, which is shocking, but, so, again, you collect most of what you bill out for service. On page 9, you see the property value and levy amounts at the top for the year, for all 5 years, and on the bottom of that, you see the total general fund revenue. And this chart on the bottom shows why you focus, or why there's a big emphasis on collection percentage, because if 72.16% of the total revenues of the town are coming from property tax, the collection percentage is a big deal. And then on page 10, you see the breakdown by percentage of the general fund expenditures, with public safety, general government, and debt service being the top ones there. And with that, we thank you for allowing us to do the audit.
Mr. Thompson, I have a question the board needs to be aware of. In our audit committee meeting, we discussed the board's responsibility, that would take on a responsibility of doing a quarterly analysis of our financial statements, just to try to identify any major variances and bring that to the board's attention.
Yes, sir.
And we'll need the board to agree that they want that done in order to comply with the requirements here. But that was, you were in favor of that as well?
Yes, sir, I was. Simply from the fact that hearing from the auditor once a year, looking deeper at it, at this time is probably not sufficient, especially with the debt you carry, and with, as a result of the project you're going through.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hope y'all have a Merry Christmas.
You
Thank
too as
you.
well.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. So the good news is we do have some money and we're in good shape.
For now.
Yeah. Taxes go up.
All right, we're on number 8. Discussion and possible nomination of board members to be mayor pro tem. Who's gonna speak to that?
How do you want to handle this? I mean, I have someone in mind, I just want to nominate.
There's no
him.
certain way, whatever you commissioners wanna do.
I'd like to nominate John Fletcher as mayor pro tem.
Okay, we'll have a nomination. Any more nominations? Hearing none, you gonna approve him by acclamation?
Sure.
So approved.
All right, Madam Clerk's unanimous. Congratulations for this high-paying job. Number 9, discussion of possible nomination of board member to be the executive secretary. Any nominations for that?
I want to nominate Peter Freer.
Any more nominations? Hearing none, you agree by acclamation he will be your secretary?
Great.
Yes.
I do.
Yep.
You are not a secretary.
Madam Clerk, it's unanimous. Chief Wally Lane?
Good evening, everyone, on this frosty evening. Not what we came to the beach for. That's about my report.
That's a good one.
Thank you, Mary.
Things remain quiet in the world of break-ins on the island so far. That doesn't mean that any of us can let our guards down, however, because it is still break-in season and will be till Memorial Day. So keep that in mind, continue to look out for each other, and the police department's trying to be as proactive as we can be in order to dissuade folk that might want to come over here and break in. So keep that in mind too. If you run into a traffic check every once in a while or something like that. We're not trying to arrest you for driving and drinking. We're just trying to make sure some of your neighbors from across the bridge don't come over and rob your house blind. Otherwise, we finished up our in-service training for the year last week, and that's always a good thing. I didn't catch that, boss.
Is Jeremy in school?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet. Trying to get Jeremy into a long-term management school as we speak, and dealing with the state on that is more fun than it should be, and it's a rather lengthy process, and it's a pretty elite school, so I'm cautiously optimistic that maybe by the next meeting, I'll be able to report that he's been accepted and has begun to attend. It lasts about a year and about a week a month for that year, and lots of homework during that time, so pretty major undertaking, but I think he's up for the task.
So this is a developmental process for him?
Yes,
Good.
sir. Yes, sir.
Good.
And in that vein, I have some connections with the FBI, and I'm also picking the brain of one of my friends with the FBI, and I'm also gonna try to get him into the FBI Academy, which is a more prestigious long-term management school than that which the state has. So, one way or the other, he will be getting some further training, hopefully during this next year. The FBI school's a little shorter too, it's only 90 days.
Well, Chief, I stopped by to thank the police force for those traffic checks you mentioned, because we were coming back, I think it was last Saturday, and I think it's a good practice to, especially since it's random,
Yes,
and I think that is a good proactive measure to help with public safety.
I appreciate that, and I appreciate the fact that you stopped by, and I was certainly apprised of your stopping by.
Oh, okay,
And was
good.
pleased to hear that. That was good news. Encourage all of you to stop whenever you feel compelled.
Chief, I think a couple of your officers prevented one of those break-ins a couple of weeks ago.
I hope so.
I got involved in it in the middle of the night, but Jessica had arrested the person early on the day. The girlfriend was still on the island searching around houses, and your nighttime officer picked her up and took care of that. So it looked pretty clear. They were down from High Point,
Yes.
and looked like they were casing the island, deciding what to do.
Yeah, she ended up spending about 8 or 9 hours in the police department waiting for a ride from High Point to come get her, I guess. But she spent that night in the police station, not under arrest or anything, you understand? We took good care of her, but she wasn't wandering aimlessly on the island, for sure. Yes, ma'am.
I just want to thank the police department. I think Operation Santa was a very, very, very huge success.
Good, that's good news too. And you know, Santa is employed by the town and the police department.
Right.
Well, we enjoyed the Halloween thing, although we seem to be very competitive when it comes to that. And now that we've won twice, I'm not real sure exactly what we're gonna do next year, but you can bet it'll be something, Christie.
Your space is this big.
It doesn't matter. Space doesn't matter. Space doesn't matter. It's all good. Anything else? That's right. Yeah, we'll go up, Christie.
One thing that everybody needs to remember is that this time of year, break-in can occur, but no one really knows it happened until that family comes down here to open up their home. And it could be springtime before we find out something's going on. So if you see something you think is unusual, call the police. Because if you think it's unusual, it probably is, and it deserves a phone call. They can check it out. And the more people they check out, the more the word gets out there to all those other people who would mean to do us harm.
Well, and just following up on that for a second, when there are large sections of the island that are unoccupied, our folks don't hesitate to get out and physically walk those properties and check those properties to be sure that they haven't been broken into. So we depend on you guys as well, but we're, like I said, we're trying to be very proactive with this break-in season, and so far we're okay. So, hoping I'll get to report that again next month. Anything else?
Thank you, sir.
Hope everyone has a safe and Merry Christmas.
Be sure to tell Mrs. Claus that she did a great job.
Mrs. Claus does a great job.
Okay, number 11, Mr. Hewitt, budget calendar and process.
Yes, sir. I took a stab at establishing a draft proposed budget for the board's consideration. It's before you tonight, and I think that what you probably want to do first is to pick a date in January, February for that first meeting, if the outline that I've prepped is okay.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'd like to put a firm date in January would be fine.
Well, our proposed meeting schedule shows the first board meeting is January 17th, if we approve that later on. Are we talking about doing before that meeting or after, or what?
I don't have a preference.
I'm okay either way.
Well, I'm,
So this first bullet looks like January, February, so it didn't really matter
It can-
whether it was,
It was up to, I
okay.
didn't know.
yeah. How about the week after that, you know, the week of the
23rd.
23rd? Anybody
Yeah.
have any,
It's okay with me? Yeah.
That's
Okay.
do we have a specific date?
Mondays and Fridays are better.
Is this a workshop to formulate the goals, capital programs, or is this a due date?
What I would suggest that would be easy for y'all if you pin some out and then allow me to consolidate that, bring it back to you, and then, you know, spitball them on the wall kind of thing. Just that's what I've done in the past.
Yeah, rather than start from a blank piece of paper, right? I
Yeah.
mean, we say workshop here, but I agree with you. Everybody put their ideas
And I'll
to you and you
try
consolidate them.
to organize them a
Okay.
bit and then give them to you at that meeting, and then you can bandy them about as you see fit.
Okay. How's the 23rd? Mr. Mayor, do you have your calendar?
No.
Okay. Do you want to,
That's a Monday, it looks like.
I just heard Monday and Friday is best for,
So again, is that date when we would submit our,
We'd have done it before that, so he could
No.
formulate it and bring it back to us as a,
right.
Maybe a week before that, I mean, just a
That's
few
the actual
days.
workshop.
There's not gonna be a lot of thought process
Okay.
go into it, it's just kind of, on my behalf, just putting them in a
Why don't we just say?
rational form.
Have the goals, our proposed goals to him at the board meeting, and then the following Monday, we have our workshop.
I think good idea.
Sounds good?
So we'll have it by the board meeting, yeah?
That'd be fine.
Sounds good?
That'd be-
Now,
So the draft submitted January 17th and the workshop the following
23rd,
23rd.
when?
What time?
What time?
9 a.m. or evening?
Would you say 9 a.m.?
9 a.m. or evening?
If I may
What's your
suggest.
Monday morning meetings?
Monday morning is okay for me. For the budget workshop, to have the staff in attendance, daytime works better. And on just the type of mental machinations that go into budget, evening time is not my skill set, or I prefer in the morning.
That's fine.
I'm okay with 9
I'm
in the
okay with
morning.
9
in the morning?
Ken, you okay
9
with
on the
9?
23rd?
So that's January 23rd, 9 in the morning.
Okay.
Okay.
So the 17th, is not a time for the 17th?
No, it's the 23rd. Yeah, there's not a time, just, that's to
17th
get
is
the,
board meeting.
Deadline.
from the individuals for their goals and capital programs.
All right.
Meeting's on the 23rd.
Mr. Good, you're up.
Uh,
Engineer.
In response to the proposal submitted by Compass Point Engineering, the contract in your package has been prepared, and I think it's what you were asking for. One thing that's not in here addressed is the fact that there's not a time frame on it, and in speaking with Mr. Norton, 4 months is the time frame, because it talks about having to communicate or benchmark other communities and trying to allow for the scheduling of benchmarking with other communities. That's what the concern was. The consideration of the contract is priced at $43,700, and that's also would require a budget amendment, a budget appropriation from fund balance in the water and sewer fund also, and that budget amendment is included for your consideration.
Is that an hourly or fixed price?
Fixed price to be billed as services are taken down.
Mr. Manager, the ordinance that appropriates the funding, is both of those actions are increases, is that? So we're talking about a net increase to the budget
Yeah.
to do that?
Because there wasn't any appropriation for these professional services, if you recall, whenever the budget considerations were done.
Can this be taken from the sewer fund?
Well, it's coming from the water and sewer fund balance, if you
So
will.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
That's what.
Yeah, it's water and sewer fund
So it's
balance.
not
That
additional.
$4.5 million that the auditor was talking about, that's where it would come from.
And when would their work actually begin? So when would that 4 months, when would that start?
In talk, just as soon as you get a signed contract, I would, rationally, it's probably gonna be after the new year.
Yeah, then I noticed they're talking about presenting their findings. Obviously, there's a deliverable of a report, and they're willing to present their findings to the board in a,
In a draft format, a preliminary report, I believe is what it's referred to.
okay.
So the preliminary report will be done in 4 months. When would the final report be done?
That would be the final report is 4 months.
Yeah, we'd like them to start as soon as possible, because before the season, you know, the new season starts, right? The hurricane season. Sounds good to me.
Need a motion to approve this?
I'm-
Mr. Hewitt, do we need any kind of action on this?
For the funds.
I would say that the motion should be to approve the contract and the associated budget amendment. And that would do it.
I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes. I still feel that this is an unnecessary step, and the reason I say that is we had a committee that reviewed the sewer system, came up with their recommendations. There was someone in there that was a qualified storage engineer. We had a qualified electrical engineer doing that. To spend another $50,000 to get another report to say basically the same thing we've already got seems to be, to me, money being spent that doesn't need to be spent. So I don't, and it also puts a 4-month delay in even starting the process to have an engineering firm picked, and then that engineering firm given a contract to come up with the engineering fixes to get it done. So we're talking about, it's gonna probably be several years before any physical, actual work starts, the way we're going right now.
Well, I don't know their conclusions, like you're saying that you know their conclusions, I do not. I also think we should learn, I always like to learn from past, you know, when this sewer system was put in, I don't know the process, but I think everyone agrees that they probably do it differently. So I think it's, as far as $50,000 or $43,000, it's money well spent.
I agree with that.
My view is that given the amount of investment that we are looking at, this action is reasonable to ensure that we're spending the money in the right places, in the right priority, which is what we're directing this engineering firm to do, is to prioritize those.
Any more discussion? You ready to vote? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no.
No.
4-1. Mr. Kaiser opposing. Mr. Hewitt, plan for the street.
Yes, sir. The memo before you proposes that to reprioritize the paving of Tide Ridge Drive and Point West Drive until the issues with stormwater and right-of-ways are satisfactorily resolved. Basically, it's going to put those streets in timeout and move the next streets up in the street survey priority system. Those streets are Marsh Walk and Schooner. So the streets this year paved would be Jordan, Marsh Walk, and Schooner. I believe it can be done within the existing resources that were budgeted this year.
Is there any progress in the Point West Streets issue?
The progress that we've made is negative process. Every time that we turn over a rock, we find another issue there. It's not the type of progress that we hope to achieve. And you know, you turn over one rock and there's two more there. So that in order to move forward with the streets improvement plan, we don't believe that it's the right thing to do in order to put pavement down on a street that's basically pumping today because it's got water up underneath it.
Yep.
So that's what we were proposed to do until it's figured out and set right, and then reestablished in the capital program and the priority system.
Okay, great.
Anyone make a motion?
I move that we approve the reprioritization of streets paving per this memo from the town manager.
I second.
A motion and a second, discussion. Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Unanimous, Madam Clerk. Chief Wally Lane? You gonna talk about ordinances?
One more time, one more. When I reinvented the wheel on this one, you guys approved one of these a couple of meetings ago, and this is essentially the same thing. Recently, a group of homeowners, were concerned about the beach access to Elizabeth Street, communicated their concerns to the town manager. What they have now is not pedestrian friendly and, or golf cart friendly, or bicycle friendly, strollers, wagons, et cetera. Took care of, the Ranger Street thing in June, and essentially we're proposing the same fix for Elizabeth Street, which require the same ordinance change as the one for Ranger Street, which is just like a sentence in the ordinance. If you so approve.
I'm not familiar with Elizabeth Street. Is the layout of that similar to Ranger?
Very similar, and, not super far away.
Just a couple hundred yards away, right?
Yeah, not
Okay.
super far away.
And second question, does this help us with our, I know I don't have the term right, but what I'm looking for is it CAMA or another, there's
A number of.
one measurement the town is subjected to whereby we provide parking spaces and pedestrian access is,
This doesn't reduce parking space, does it?
No.
well, that
doesn't
wasn't my
reduce-
anticipation, does it? It sounds like it would increase it, which would be beneficial to that. Y'all know which, you know what measurement I'm talking about?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, the land use plan.
It would enhance
I
it.
don't think so, it's something else, but
It would not be detrimental, it would enhance.
it would be
the
positive to
situation.
that.
Absolutely.
All right.
Okay, good.
So, Mr. Mayor, you sounds like, what is
No,
it
you're on the
I'm
right
trying to
track.
refer to? Okay,
And the CAMA, grants.
okay. Well, I move we approve this ordinance, which will provide the same parking that we afforded Ranger as set forth in this modified ordinance 16-18.
I second.
Discussion? Here, now, I'll make one comment, and that is that I continue to hear the same complaint from those that live in the area. The town this is a quote from one of my neighbors, the town keeps dumping all the public parking in our area, the east end of the beach. I'm just passing it along, and asked me, how many public parking spaces have we opened up on the west end? And I don't have an answer that satisfies the question, but anyway, I promised the lady I'd say that. You ready to vote?
Well, if I may, I hadn't thought that, are those people who live near Elizabeth?
Yeah.
Okay, because I was thinking that this modification represented the will of those folks who were in that area, but are these some
Apparently not all. the
vocal
folks.
dissenters? Okay,
Apparently not all the folks, and I hadn't heard that either. We heard from the folks that, would like to see it occur, and just now, I guess, heard from one of the folks that doesn't want it to be.
Well, I think the consensus is that what you're proposing is better than maybe what was, because they're getting crowded out, using their own access, trying to get there with their wagons and stuff. I don't have a solution, I'm just passing the information on.
Yeah, I think there is a need on the western side as well, when we see it.
Yep.
Yeah, if I may, the difference is you have streets on the east end that extend toward the ocean front.
Yeah.
From the pier west,
You
you
don't.
don't have that.
Right.
So it makes it a little more difficult to achieve the same goal
Yep.
going west than east.
You ready to vote?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. All right, number 15, thank you, Chief, is moved to next January. Turn to page number 16. Mr. Tim Evans is gonna talk with us about the CAMA land use plan.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
So everybody read the memo?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. I guess I'll accept any questions that you have about the memo.
I've got a couple. So, just in general, the plan that we currently have, when was it created?
It was last redone in 2009.
Okay,
It was what you would call, it was a full update.
In two-
It was redone in 2009.
okay.
And what was the approval date on that? I'm sorry. Was it 11? Because it took them,
It usually takes CAMA a while, and then the approval date was somewhere between 2010 and 2011.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, there's like 3 plans that are being updated right now in our area, but there is no one who has a more current plan. The ones that are being updated are like from 2006 and 5, and, you know what I mean?
Okay, well, that was my next question. So, how old do they have to be considered old? Like, when do you update?
They don't become, there used to be this language that made people believe that they needed to update it every 5 years. And the CRC went in and looked at the language, and still there are some people who think you need to update it every 5 years, but there is no definitive language that says you have to update it every 5 years. The consensus is you would only update it when you have such a change that would require such. In other words, if we started seeing a change in the dynamics of our town, we may need to update. If we were to have a situation where we start losing, or we start just eating up lots and becoming more dense, then we may have to change it.
To make it more stringent or
To make it
whatever?
more, make it more
Okay.
stringent, or to change it in a way that it would conform with those those 7B guidelines. There are specific guidelines, as it says in the memo, that you have to follow, and if you don't follow and have those things that are laid out in that outline, then you won't qualify for those monies, for those grants and that sort of thing. It goes back to the parking like he's talking about. 7B guidelines stipulate parking and that kind of stuff.
Right. So there's nothing at this point that we aren't doing?
The reason you updated it last time was because we had one major change. Everything became, we had one of the most significant changes that you could have that would affect both the environment and our density, our population, and our ability to grow.
Yeah.
And that was, we got a new sewer.
Yeah.
So until you have something that's gonna have that sort of impact, typically you don't start updating your land use plan. And if we start to do an update now, say an update of certain things now, those new 7B guidelines would almost require a complete modification of it. Now, you can do some minor changes, if you wanna start stipulating that we had a few, lot changes here and conservation here, but we've not had any major shifts in our zoning, in rezoning, in population, in infrastructure. We're still building the lots at the same size. There's just not really been that kind of thing. I'm not recommending you update it or not update it, because you don't know. You know what I mean? It's just one of those things.
Tim, does it get reviewed periodically in terms of looking, is there any need to do
You
it?
would only need to review it if you had some sort of a major, something that was gonna change it, that was gonna affect it.
Structural and,
Right, right. So, and this comes straight, the information I'm giving you comes straight out of COG, comes straight out of the League of Municipalities, straight out of the Council of Governments. I didn't go to school at the School of Government all those years and do the studying that I did, not to understand a little bit about this. And I also did the research before I did the memo. I talked specifically to the people that updated it last time and the people that would assist us in updating it this time. So, you know, I spent some time with it, so.
I would like to make a comment because my rationale for even bringing it up actually stemmed from, there was a planning and zoning subcommittee or committee meeting to where there was a request to get a variance, I guess, on the zoning, and this was on, you probably remember it, this was associated with the Griffin donated property. And I remember hearing there that there is actually a subdivision plotted on that property still. So my concern was that we're having the Planning and Zoning Committee review variances to that based on what to me was an outdated plan if we're referencing that subdivision plot. Because clearly, that has not been, or at least to my understanding, that's not the general public's understanding of the intended use of that. So how does that, how is that represented in the Campbell Land Use Plan?
The planning board does not hear variances. Board of Adjustments.
Okay, the Board of Adjustments, thank
The
you.
planning board may have a discussion whereby they may want to look at something to see if it's in compliance with the Campbell Land Use Plan. And I don't recall if they determined whether it was in the Campbell Land Use Plan or met the Campbell Land Use Plan requirement. What I think happened was, I don't think they ever came back or ever finished the rezoning. It was like, I don't know what happened
Well,
there.
what happened, what I recall was that the staff actually recommended that they approve this
Well,
variance.
Here's why.
Which, let me finish, which I was wondering, since the variance is supposed to be approved based on, are they in accordance with the land use plan? So I was
You mean
surprised.
the rezoning. It was a
Yeah,
rezoning.
yeah, the rezone, yeah. So I was surprised to hear that staff recommended, since we had this,
Uh-huh.
in my view, a disagreement with the land use plan
Okay,
based on
the
the
land-
subdivision.
The land use plan is a document by which we determine whether we're in compliance with those 7B guidelines, so that we qualify for these funds, and it can also act as a land use plan. But it is not a document that is written in stone that you have to follow, as long as you don't violate those rules that would put you in conflict with the ones that qualify you for the monies as written in that document, in that memo. For instance, if your plan use plan requires you, or CAMA's plan that we approve requires us to have X amount of open space, you know what I mean, that is environmental friendly, or is an AEC of certain types, okay? As long as we don't reduce that, if we rezone the part that's not in the AEC, then we're not in violation of the CAMA land use plan.
I'm not
Now-
really, well,
That's what I'm saying. The reason we, in that particular case, were saying that we approve of it was because we are creating residential zoning that didn't increase the density, okay, by subdividing it, while not reducing the amount of open space, which we felt was in compliance with the CAMA land use plan. So
Okay.
that's why staff
all
recommended
right.
it.
Does the current CAMA land use plan have that Griffin property designated as conservation?
I don't remember the specifics. It may not, it may be, or it may not be.
Okay.
They haven't,
Well, to me, that's
it's-
important because that's why I brought it up.
Well, that's really a function of the zoning ordinance. That's what would control the actual adjudication of that. The CAMA land use plan really offers more broad and general guidance, and then the subdivision and the zoning ordinances parry out from that and get more specific.
Well, but I just heard Board of Adjustments is the one to rule on
Variances.
variances, and now, that's why I was saying it was a planning and zoning. What is the plan? Is a plan for the town that this be, it still remains a conservation,
Well,
zone?
the only way that we would not allow a rezoning, I would think, the only way we wouldn't allow a rezoning would be if it would be a detriment to the Campbell land use plan, or if it would be a detriment to the town's, land use part of it, okay? So, or a violation of those 7Bs. It would, then you could say that we don't want to approve it, but because it would be a violation of the Campbell land use plan. There is a map in the Campbell land use plan that represents our zoning map. And if our zoning map is different than that map, it would matter in the state that you would have to come rezone if you wanted to change it. Whether the rezoning met the Campbell land use plan's 7B requirements would be whether or not how it fit into the whole plan.
Okay, does the zoning map refer to that as being conservation?
I do not recall.
Okay, to me, then I'm uncomfortable because it sounds like we have a dichotomy between the Campbell land use plan, the zoning plan, and the direction that the committees would be following when someone comes with a proposed variance. That's my only interest in it, is that we be clear.
You would always have that if someone comes to rezone something, it's not gonna already be
Well,
what it is on the map.
with all due respect, if we cannot say now, I mean, that's a large area of property, and if someone with your knowledge, Mr. Evans, can't tell me that it is designated as conservation or not.
Oh, are you talking about the NC State property right
Yes.
there? Oh, that's conservation, unequivocally, yeah, it's a blob this big on the
Okay,
map.
so does our.
It's
so-
conservation,
Okay, and it's zone conservation.
it's on
All right,
conservation.
is the land use plan, does it recognize that that is conservation?
The land use plan includes the zoning map as
It includes,
indicative.
okay,
Mhm.
all right. Well, I would think it important that the Planning and Zoning Board knows that, and that when someone comes with a proposed variance, that should be considered, because if that's not the document we're referring to, then that's why I asked the question last meeting, do we need to update it? That's all I'm interested in, is do the current plans in place represent the will of the people? That's,
Well, the CAMA land use plan represents the will of CAMA under the 7B guidelines. And
Okay,
it can be
and-
used, we follow those guidelines when we start doing that stuff. And the planning board looks at development and that sort of stuff. The Board of Adjustments looks at variances. When variances are granted, they're usually granted in conflict with the ordinance, or else there'd be no need for a variance.
thank you, Tim.
Any more discussion, questions? Thank you, sir.
You're still up.
We don't take any action on number 16 in regards to the Campbell land use plan. All right, we'll go to number 17.
Oh.
Mr. Freer.
Well, I think that's also Mr. Evans updated the ordinance.
I tried to put together an ordinance that I thought that y'all might want to approve. There may be some language in there you may want to change, you may want to approve it or deny it. Totally up to y'all.
Yeah, and I only have one question, and it's very small. You talked about the definitions of charcoal burner and open flame devices and combustible construction. But then in the 91.17, you open flame cooking device. Should we just remove cooking, Tim? Just to,
Yeah, you can.
just so it's a little, somebody pointed out that it's, confusing. I know what you mean, but, so, and then there's two instances of that, that's it. So, just to be clear, I think everyone, you see what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
The
yeah.
two instances of cooking?
So we're moving both open flame cooking devices?
No, we're
No,
moving
just the
the
word
word
cooking.
cooking. He took,
Right after.
Because in the
It's same
definition,
line.
it says open flame devices.
yeah.
So down here.
So this doesn't include propane grills with a lid, just so everyone knows. It's charcoal, open flame, or open flame, turkey roasters on or close to a deck. And that's exactly the intent that we discussed,
Or within 10 feet of your house?
or within 10 feet of your
Yeah,
house.
you can't put it underneath the house?
Correct,
Right.
that's correct. And that was the discussion and the intent.
What's a fire pit considered? And not like an enclosed, like a portable,
Those portable fire pits?
open fire pit?
Yeah, they're not UL approved, we won't approve them to be used. They have to be a UL approved device, but that would be an open flame.
Yeah.
That would be a.
That would be an
other
open,
flame, again, and you said take it out cooking, so
it would be other open flame device, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
So
so-
open flame devices would not include gas fireplaces?
Okay, well, if it's a fireplace, it probably won't be an open flame, probably have something around it.
It's got a screen in front.
Yeah. They would also have like a top, if you see.
Oh, yeah, it's got tops and sides. So that doesn't count.
Yeah, if
Just
it's
making
a,
sure.
well, let me tell you, if it's a fireplace, it's gonna fall under chapter 10 of the North Carolina Residential Building Code, no matter where it's at on that property.
Okay.
And then it's gonna have to meet a whole new set of rules as far as being near combustion material, how it's designed, how it's put in, that kind of thing. And plus the manufacturer specifications as well, which are gonna take it away from combustible materials and all that stuff. It falls back into that UL approved, it's gonna be UL approved, and then you have to put it in per that chapter 10 and those UL guidelines.
No, I think this meets what I was talking about for sure. Well-
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. Well, I would submit that since we've had questions about, does this include propane-fueled grills, since the open flame device, it specifically says fueled by flammable or combustible gas or liquids that are not enclosed or installed, I think it might be helpful to add, however you do that,
Put an
something
exception.
that says does not include,
You would drop down underneath it, under 9118, and put exception, or put like a little A with exception.
yeah, or something like that to make it clear that the intent was not to prohibit.
You can put exception,
Propane fuel.
propane fuel grills,
Yep,
Yeah.
yeah,
okay?
that'd be good.
So you can, if you want to approve it, you can approve it with 91.17A, exception, propane grills, propane fueled grills.
Yeah.
And then only other one exception, just for Heather, is the two cooking, okay,
We're gonna take out cooking.
two places. I move we approve with those two updates.
Second.
Motion is second. Everybody understand the changes?
Yes, sir.
Everybody ready to vote?
Just to make sure I understand, we're taking out charcoal grills. I mean, we're saying charcoal grills are against the rules in like the deep fryers, the turkey fryers where you drop the turkey in boiling oil and watch it go everywhere.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Unless they're 10 feet.
Right, unless they're 10 feet from the,
No.
Yep.
I did see, I'm not trying to belabor this, but I think I saw the term balcony
Yeah, it's in there.
is
You could take that out and just make it legal.
decks or,
Yeah, who's one?
You could, I know it's in there, I put it in there because we talked about balconies, but you could take out the balcony section, just leave combustible construction there. It would be the same thing.
Yeah.
Devices
Okay.
should not be operated on,
within
on
10.
or within combustible construction.
Okay.
On or within 10 feet of combustible.
Yeah, because somebody, is a balcony different than a deck, stuff, so.
Okay.
So you
Good.
could take out combustible construction. I mean combustible balconies, I'm sorry,
Yeah, okay.
and it would read the same way.
Madam Clerk, you want to read the,
I have it.
The two changes would be removing cooking out of the two places and, add 91.17A exception propane fueled grills and then take out combustible balcony.
I just have one last comment in general. It deals with enforcement, so I guess we could vote on the motion, then I can just ask that question. All right?
yeah, let's get the motion
All right.
cleared up.
Yeah.
Everybody understand the changes?
Yes.
The motion maker and the seconder agree?
Agree.
All right. Your turn to ask questions and discuss.
Well, it's primarily around enforcement. As within all ordinances, they're only as good as how well they're enforced. What's the intent here for how this would be enforced?
I would assume that it would be complaint driven. We have somebody calls in and says that there's a charcoal grill burning on the back deck. And then we would start the same action we would start with any kind of other violation in the town.
Okay.
We've had a discussion in our office that we would have a form already set up
Okay.
to start the process so that we could go out there, hand it to them and tell them they have to cease. And we put it in that same section that was already there and adopted those same penalties and guidelines for that section that was already.
So you're saying that's the current operational enforcement now, we're just updating the,
Right,
Right.
same thing is
Okay.
now, we're complaint driven, somebody calls and tells me they got a unauthorized cooking pit or flame going in the backyard, then I go out there and I say, you got to cease and desist, and here's the statute, here's the letter, tear it down, take it away, do whatever you need to do.
Okay.
And what happens is that you really get penalized when you do it again.
don't do that.
Yeah.
Then you start up. Or if they don't remove it, then it starts becoming a cumulative penalty.
Okay, any more discussion? Ready to vote?
Yes.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. It's unanimous, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Mr. Evans.
Yep, thank you.
Yes.
And Mr. Freer.
I make a motion to establish a 5-member shoreline protection and safety board.
Do we need to second that before we do any discussion?
Yes, sir.
I second it.
What are the responsibilities, or what is their job? What are they supposed to do?
I view it as more of a focus. Right now, that function is part of Parks and Rec. I'd also invite, it's not in no way saying that Parks and Recs are not doing their job. It's just, I think it deserves a focus. And I'd also encourage the Parks and Rec, the people on that board that, would like to, submit their applications to join this board. It's to look at the issues relating to Central Reach, the implications that, the current vegetation static line to the new development line, understand that. I don't have a good understanding of that, and I should. I need some help with that. We have the east end shoreline protection issue that needs a lot of study. We'll talk about B-part funds, talk about beach patrol that's coming up. So it's really a focus on those issues around the the sand and the safety around it. My understanding is that one time there was a separate board. And I think with all the monies that are being spent and all the focus on the beach, it deserves its own focused board.
It also says safety board. What are we talking about for safety board?
The beach patrol,
Say beach safety, I would think, having a patrol out there of some sort that advises people and corrects people, informs them, not a police function, but just one that informs people what our statutes are.
You realize when you put someone out on that beach representing the town, that makes the town liable for them, and our insurance won't cover them. So if they have an accident, if they're hurt, if someone attacks them, that's a liability to the town,
We're-
totally and completely.
we're gonna get I guess, Christie, in February, Oak Island is gonna come over. I talked to them, and they are very, very proud and are very positive on their citizen beach patrol. So I'd like to understand how they do it and what's the pluses and minuses, and make a
Before I
decision
vote to
based on
say-
that information.
I'd like to establish a safety committee that's gonna wanna establish the board. I'd like to hear more about that and find out what our liabilities are gonna be. Because I don't wanna see us put in a position where we're gonna have potentially lawsuits.
That's
could be
why we should have a
extremely
board that could do that work. Right, exactly, I agree with you. We should have a board that looks into that in detail.
So do I understand the purpose of the motion is to show the board's intent to form this
New board.
body?
New board, and I'd
Reporting directly to the board rather than as a part of another board. And I think as much as
Well, I
As
thought it was
much-
I thought it was another one under Park and Rec, so I misunderstood that.
this function now falls under Parks and Rec. That
Okay.
I'm proposing a new board to pull it out into its own board.
Its own board, okay.
a separate board reporting to
Separate
the
board reporting to us. Shoreline Protection and Safety Board,
Just
and
like
I-
all the others,
just like all the others.
And that wouldn't necessarily
Theoretically
include a
report.
safety patrol on the beach. It's just
No,
that
no.
for shoreline
Well-
protection, updating us on all of the events that are going on. We got like a lot of money being dedicated to beach renourishment, all sorts of things that,
yeah, I understand, that's why, but the reason I asked the question is the purpose of the motion to reflect, once we vote, the intent of the board. I think based on the questions we have, they're legitimate questions. And the town manager, we had that discussion about, at times, it's more fruitful for us to vote on intent and then let the town manager
Well,
and others work through some of these questions so that we don't go off half-cocked with.
Yeah, so
with an
that's
idea
why I didn't.
like we've done before,
In my
I'd rather not
motion,
repeat.
in my motion, I didn't include any
Right.
other than to
But-
form the board.
But Commissioner Kaiser here, I think, I understand, he's reluctant to vote on something without all these questions, but I guess what I'm saying is there a way we could reflect our intent and then have it come back where we would approve the descriptions?
Oh, I'm sure.
and
I'm aware of that.
responsibilities and things, so we know more about what we're about to put in place.
I'd be happy to amend my motion to use the word intent.
See, that's my problem. We keep bringing things before the board that get put on the agenda that have no supporting documentation, as required by some of the stuff we put in place when you guys first took office. Okay, so here we are gonna make a decision to create
Commissioner
a new
Kaiser,
board.
with all due respect, we all took
With-
office the same time.
I understand that.
Well, you said you guys,
Okay.
we're one board now. We've
Okay.
been one board for years.
Okay, I'm chastised.
Well, not
Okay, no,
chastised.
you publicly chastise me, I'm following my sword. Stab me with it, okay?
I said
I'm
with due
expressing an
respect.
opinion. And my opinion is, things keep showing up in here that don't have documentation, so we can't sit down and look at it and say, gee, am I for that or am I against it? Or do I have questions on it? So we end up voting on things and then we end up having to re-vote on them or redo them because we don't have time to think about them properly. That's all I'm saying.
Any more discussion? Whenever you said you were happy to amend, did that mean you did amend it or not?
Yes, yes.
So we need a
Establish the intent to establish a 5-member shoreline protection and safety board. And I would envision, if you want me to come back with my view of the world of that board, I'd be happy to do that. But I think we should work with the town, with Heather, and develop that together.
If I could add in, the clerk is probably not the one to work with on that. I mean, the functional expertise on all of those shoreline protections
Is-
resides with Christie and
Christie.
I.
Okay.
Let's get ourselves in order here. We had a motion, now we've got a desire to amend the motion by the motion maker. We need a
Second.
second.
I seconded.
Okay, now we're voting on the amendment. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no.
No.
All right, so now we've got discussion on the amended proposed motion. Okay, and you offered, Mr. Freer, to give us an outline or something, because there's no paperwork, there's no nothing that was submitted in
Excuse
there.
me, didn't we just vote on
Yeah.
creating the board? They just voted on, approved it, it's done.
Done.
Well, I have a question, because I thought we just amended it. I thought the
You
word was.
voted on the amendment, didn't you?
Yeah, we voted on the amendment. I thought the amendment was that the board intends to form the board that's yet defined.
Okay, hold
Maybe
it,
I
hold it,
misunderstood.
hold it, hold it. You voted on putting the amendment on the table. Okay, you didn't vote on the amendment to act upon it. We got it?
Okay, now got it.
Now, you're in discussion of the amended, approved motion.
I guess I'd like to hear what that amended motion is, and that's all I was asking.
And whenever he inserted the word intent, that was the
Motion
amendment.
to,
Okay?
Got
the
it.
intent to establish.
Okay, so we're all on the same page. Okay. Any more discussion on the amended motion?
So the discussion, as a town manager, I'll work with the town manager and Christie to put some content for this board.
Yeah, I think that was Mr.
You okay?
Kaiser's point, since there's no supporting documents or anything. Anyway, all right, you want to vote on it, or do you want to talk about it some more? You're voting that you have an intent to form this committee, all right? You ready to vote on it, or?
And we're gonna get input.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. All right, moving right along. Where were we, number 19? Meeting schedule for 2017. Clerk, Madam Clerk?
The dates in the proposed schedule reflect the third Tuesday of each month at 7 PM, as it is currently.
I move that we approve the 2017 schedule of meetings.
May I have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion second, discussion. Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. It's unanimous. Town managers report.
Very briefly tonight, I want to provide everyone with an update on the status of the Central Reach project. Looks like the bad weather that we've had for the last 10 days or so is going to preclude the submerged line from making it up here until about Christmas Day. That means with about 3 days of fitting those things together, hooking up with the dredge and also the shore crew work, probably looking at about Wednesday of next week before sand starts to be put up on the beach. Secondly, our cleanup from Hurricane Matthew. I believe the crews are finished on the eastern leg from Jordan Boulevard east with all the newspaper called them stakes, but they're the 2x4s that were in the ground and remaining from all the sand fence being rolled up. That was a newspaper. That was that other newspaper. It was that other newspaper. Yeah. And the crews have, unless there's been some more tires wash up today, have got the majority of those picked up between here and the pier and are moving westward now. And the intent is to try to stay ahead and out of the way of the dredger. That's all I have.
Mayor's report, short and simple, and that is Santa Claus is coming. All is well. I've been good. I'm looking forward to it.
No cold,
Yeah. Mr. Mayor Pro Tem,
Thank everyone for coming. We do value your input from the public, which is to come. I was thinking we missed that, but I know Mr. Mayor wouldn't have let us miss that part. It's been a year now since this board has been in place, and I'd just say it's a learning opportunity. It's been a significant learning opportunity for me. And I hope, well, it's my intent when I ask questions and make statements that we have clarity on whatever we're proposing, because everything we propose has impact. It may be minimal, may be significant, but I believe it's our responsibility to be clear on what we are proposing so the public can be clear on the actions we take. So I do value that input, and I value feedback, however it's presented. And I would like to wish everybody a Merry Christmas. I'm so thankful that we have this community here, and I just wish everyone a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
okay, something just occurred to me. Those of you that may not know that Sunday, the Holden Beach Chapel worship time has been changed to 10 o'clock on Christmas morning. So just make a note of that.
Saturday night service is at 7,
Christmas Eve.
Christmas Eve.
Yeah. Mr. Freer,
I just wish everyone Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
good report.
Same thing, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Another good report.
Thank you for the support we've gotten from you from the first year of our service. I hope the second year is even better for you, and you view it as better. And I also wish you a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to you and your family.
Mr. Kaiser, have you got a good report?
Yeah, I'm gonna thank everybody for being here. I wanna wish everybody a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, and I just wanted to say that my voting against the money for the engineering firm to do another evaluation on the sewer system in no way reflects my desire not to fix it. I strongly support fixing the sewer system. It's just I'd like to see it done faster than it's necessarily being done. That's it.
Okay. Number 23, public comments on anything anybody wants to talk about. If you raise your hand, be recognized. Come to the podium, tell us who you are, where you live, and take off. Anybody? Another good report.
I move that we adjourn the meeting.
We have a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Have a motion second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.